Hello, everyone, and welcome today to our special free training. My name is Tom Corson-Knowles. I'm the best-selling author of several books, including Secrets of the Six-Figure Author and the Kindle Publishing Bible series. So welcome, everyone. Tonight, we're going to talk about how to crack the code to becoming a #1 best-selling author on Amazon. And my promise to you is that here's what I'm going to teach you tonight. So first of all, we're going to talk about how Amazon bestseller rankings work. We're going to dive deep into the details of exactly how the rankings work so you can understand the system, which is how Amazon decides whether or not they want to promote your book and who they're going to promote your book to. Okay. We're also going to show you how to find the best Amazon bestseller categories for your specific book, right? So whether you write fiction, nonfiction, it doesn't matter what market you're in. I'm going to show you the 5-step system to finding the best bestseller categories on Amazon for your specific book in any market. I'm going to show you how to calculate exactly how many sales you need to get to #1 bestseller status in any category on Amazon. I'm actually going to share with you a tool that I've developed that's totally free, my free Amazon book sales calculator, which will do this for you, which will automatically turn any bestseller ranking for any book on Amazon for ebooks and print books into exactly how many sales that book is getting every month or in a 1-day period. And we'll talk more about that. And I'm going to also show you how to systematize this entire process to save you a ton of time, because this is a very time-intensive process. Amazon has over 28,000 bestseller categories right now, and they're adding more every month, right? And so to research them all and to find the right ones for your book and then to follow the system where you actually do the market research, it takes a lot of time. And so I'm going to show you how to just make it so much quicker, so much easier, so much simpler for you, okay? So if that's why you're here, if this is what you came here to learn, please go ahead and type in the questions box if this is what you're excited about learning, because this is what I came here tonight to teach, and I want to make sure that we're on the same page, and I want to make sure I can deliver as much value to you as possible tonight. So I want to let you know that I love teaching. Like, this is my passion, this is my purpose in life, and so I'm just so grateful to be here today to be able to share this information with you, and I'm really grateful that you showed up to come learn. And so at the very end of today's training, you'll have an opportunity to learn even more about my advanced training courses and tools for authors and publishers. But before we get into any of that, I'm going to make sure I thoroughly and completely deliver on my promise to you to show you how to get your book to #1 bestseller on Amazon. So I want to make sure that you are prepared. So make sure you have a notebook and pen. If you don't, please go ahead, just run real quick, grab a notebook, grab a pen. If you take notes on your iPad or iPhone or whatever, that's fine too. And just make sure you have something to take notes with, because there's going to be a ton of valuable information you're really going to want to capture tonight, okay? And if you have any distractions going on right now, cell phones, TVs, maybe you need to shut the door to your room so you can really focus, go ahead and do that, because I do talk really fast, and I apologize in advance if I say anything you don't understand. Please just go ahead and type in the questions box, let me know, and I'll make sure at the end of the presentation tonight, I'm going to answer every single question you guys have. So I'll go through all the questions in the chat box and make sure everything you have, every concern you have, every question you have gets answered, so you have all the information that you need to succeed. And so if questions do come up as we're going through the presentation, please just go ahead and type them in right away. I will not answer them immediately because I just can't stay focused on the questions and the presentation at the same time. I just get really distracted and it doesn't work for me personally. But at the end of the presentation tonight, I will go through every single question and make sure that you get what you need to succeed. I also have a special gift for you tonight just for showing up. So for those of you who stick with us to the end of the webinar, I'm going to give you a special gift for free. It's a copy of my book, The Book Marketing Bible, 39 Proven Ways to Build Your Author Platform and Promote Your Books on a Budget. So I want to ask you a question. Have you published a book yet? I want to get to know you a little bit better and see what you're writing about. So if you've already written a book before, if you've published a book before, please go ahead and let us know. And let us know what it's about as well. So, and be as specific as you can. So let me know, specific niche or sub niche or subgenre of your book. And if you haven't written a book yet, let me know, like, what would you write about if you could, right? So if you could write a book in any topic, any field, any area, what would that be? And while you're sharing your story with us, I really appreciate that. I wanted to share my story with you really quickly. So, I started this journey kind of 10 years ago. So this is a picture of me 10 years ago. I was a freshman in college at university, and reading was my passion. I love to read, and it's my absolute passion in life. And I was in business school, and all my classmates, their dream was to go to Wall Street and become investment bankers. And their dream was like my nightmare. I just did not want to go down that route whatsoever. And so I was really scared of my life at that time, and I was looking for something different. I was looking for some other way to create a career, to create an income for myself that didn't involve being in a cubicle 100 hours a week. And so my dream that I came up with was to become a best-selling author. And I know many of you're here tonight, so you share that same dream, so you can really resonate. And so what I did to kind of my first step to move towards this dream, besides reading as many books as I could, was I wrote down this goal. And my goal was simple. It was to earn a full-time income doing what I love, reading, writing, and sharing good ideas. And this goal and this dream for me, it seemed so crazy at the time because I didn't know anyone who was a writer. I didn't know anyone who was successful as a writer or really as an entrepreneur either. And so I didn't have any role models in my life. The only thing I had were the books. And so I started reading every book I could on personal development and inspiration and motivation and writing and marketing and just everything I could get my hands on to try to figure out how I could actually make my dream come true. And so as I was going through this process trying to make my dreams come true, I ran across this problem. And the problem was I just had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how I was ever going to make it happen. And because I didn't know what I was doing, I failed miserably, right? So when I tried to go the traditional publishing route, I couldn't get agents or publishers to respond to my letters, my emails, or phone calls for 6 years, right? So, I spent 6 years of my life, kind of half-assed trying to get my book published traditionally and really just failed at it because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a mentor. No one wanted to take a chance on a broke college student who really didn't have any life experience, right? Writing nonfiction books. But what happened was a couple of years ago, someone mentioned, self-publishing on Amazon Kindle. So when I self-published my first book on Amazon Kindle in 2012, everything changed for me, and it changed really, really, really quickly. In fact, I was shocked how fast it changed. In the first year, I had my first $12,000 month just from ebook royalties, just from Amazon Kindle alone. And it totally changed my life. I mean, my dream had come true. I was able to do, incredible things. Here I was on the bestseller list on top of the top 100 business and investing authors on Amazon next to Robert Kiyosaki, who was a big mentor of mine because his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, was the first personal development book I'd ever read. So up until that point in my life, I only read, books for school and novels. And I'd never read a personal development book. And so that got me on the track of reading, I've read thousands of personal development books now. And it got me inspired to think about, that dream of becoming a best-selling author. I really got that from Robert Kiyosaki. So to be next to him on the bestseller list on Amazon was an absolute dream come true for me. Seth Godin was another big mentor of mine. I got to be next to him on Amazon. Brian Tracy, another person whose books really motivated me, inspired me to take my life in a different direction. And so I've been able to achieve some really incredible stuff. And today I'm not just an author, I'm also a publisher. So I actually run a publishing company called TCK Publishing. We publish over 300 books in all the major fiction and nonfiction markets. So even though I only write nonfiction personally, I have lots of experience, marketing, promoting, researching fiction books in all different genres. And I'm going to share with you tonight, everything I've shared with you tonight is tested, it's proven, it's worked for my books, it's worked for our clients at TCK Publishing, it's worked for my coaching clients, and it's worked for literally tens of thousands of my students who I've taught these strategies to in my online courses and online training programs. So my goal tonight is just to save you 6 years of work, right? It took me 6 years of banging my head against the wall to finally get my book published. And, it took me 1 year later to actually get to the top of the bestseller charts on Amazon. And I want to show you what I've learned along the way and just save you so much time, right? And I want to show you specifically how I have used market research and bestseller category analysis to create hundreds of #1 bestselling books on Amazon. So here's the thing you have to understand. The bestseller lists on Amazon, they matter. They matter a whole lot. And one of the things I've found is that selecting the right bestseller list on Amazon can actually increase your sales as much as 173%. And the reason I know this is because at the publishing company, we've had lots of clients who were either self-published before or they had another publisher and then they moved over to us. So they had an existing book that was already published on Amazon and they moved it over to our Kindle publishing account. And the first thing that we do when we get a book like that that's already been published and just comes over to our company, we need to start, #1, the most basic thing you need to do is do your market research, right? And so we do that, and we do the market research, and we do the bestseller list analysis that you're going to learn how to do in this presentation. And just by doing that, we noticed that some of these books started selling more. In fact, one of the books started selling 173% more sales from that one change of simply only thing we did was just change the bestseller lists that it was featured in on Amazon. And so the bestseller lists matter. They matter a whole lot. Now, not every book is going to get that big of an increase of sales just by changing the bestseller lists. But when you add that one simple change with other changes, like changes to your book cover or your book title or your description, or getting more reviews, or upgrading the first 10% of your book so that readers really are attracted when they look inside your book and actually want to buy it. Like, when you add all these changes together, it can lead to massive changes in sales. So being a best-selling author can help you do all kinds of things. First of all, most obviously, it can help you sell more books. So when you actually have like that #1 bestseller tag on your book on Amazon, you get more sales because more people see your book and more people actually buy your book because they see it's already a bestseller. So it's like, it's like by being popular, you become more popular. It's just kind of the way the world works, especially with the internet, where it kind of amplifies the best, right? So the best books get more and more exposure. And the more and more exposure your book gets, the more and more exposure your book gets. It's a virtuous cycle, right? Other things that being a best-selling author can help you do, which, kind of shocked me when I first found out, is you can actually get book deals. So if you're a self-published author, you can actually still get book deals, right? So the way I found this out was we've had, books at the top of the charts on Amazon, and because they were just selling so well on Amazon, the foreign publishers said, hey, I want to offer you an advance on this book, and we'll translate it into French, or we'll translate it into Chinese, and we'll pay you an advance, and we'll pay you royalties ongoing. And so these are called foreign language rights deals. And so we've done several of those deals now for our books. And that happened just because we were a bestseller on Amazon. So people are actually, these international publishers are actually checking Amazon to see what's popular in the United States or in other markets, and then they'll go ahead and make an offer on those books so they can publish it in their language and their markets, right? And because I know nothing about, publishing books and marketing books in French or in China or in Taiwan, it just makes perfect sense to have those foreign publishers pay us for the rights to market and publish the books in those places. There's also movie deals. There's all kinds of different licensing deals that you can do with a book when you are a best-selling author. And the great thing about it today is that Amazon is like an equal playing field. Everyone can publish their book on Amazon. It doesn't cost a lot of money. It's an equal playing field. A book by TCK Publishing or a book by Hachette or a book by Random House is not going to get any more or less promotion or exposure on Amazon than a book by Joe Smith who published in his basement. It's all the same. What matters is how good your book is, how well it's promoted and positioned, and how much readers love it, right? That's what matters when it comes to sales on Amazon. And when you have the sales on Amazon to prove that your book is worth it, that's when you can get these other kinds of deals coming in for you. You can also charge more for coaching or consulting or speaking if you offer other services. So, years ago, I used to charge $100 an hour for coaching and consulting. Today, I charge 10 times as much. I charge $1,000 an hour for coaching and consulting. And it's just because, I've achieved so much. I've become a best-selling author. I've sold so many books, and I'm still very busy with my coaching practice. So, there's so many awesome benefits of being a best-selling author. And another one that I never really understood until it happened was that you get to attract new opportunities effortlessly. So to give you an example, a couple of weeks ago, someone read my book. They loved it. They recommended it to this website, and it's a very large website, and they wanted to promote it. They wanted to promote me and my book and my services. And so they sent out an email to their audience, and they brought in 500 new customers to my business in less than a week. Right. And it's not something I went out and sought. It's not something I worked at. It's just someone read my book. They loved it. They recommended it, and someone promoted it, and so on. And so to attract these new opportunities effortlessly, you want to make sure that it's easy for people to contact you. Right. So a big mistake a lot of authors make is they don't put their email, their author website, and their contact information in their books on their author bio page on Amazon.com. And actually make sure that you actually have an author website with contact information on the website to make it easy to contact you. Because when you are at the top of the bestseller charts on Amazon, you will find new opportunities coming your way. And sometimes it's a waste of time. Sometimes it's just someone who wants to ask you 1,000 questions, and they're not really going to help you out necessarily. But in other times, you'll just find opportunities that will just take your business or your life or your speaking career or whatever you're working on to a whole new level, and that's really exciting. So let's dive deep into the training now of how you can actually make this work for you and how you can actually get to the top of the charts on Amazon. So in this slide, I'm going to cover the very, very basics of it. And if you've already studied a lot about marketing and publishing on Amazon, you might already know this, but then we're going to get into the more advanced stuff. But I want to start with the very basics so that we make sure we're all on the same page. And whether you've never written a book before, never published a book before, whether you've published hundreds, you're all going to be on the same page and make sure you know and can follow along and see how this all works. So first of all, every single book on Amazon has what's called an Amazon bestsellers rank. So number 1 is the current best-selling ebook on Amazon, and number 4.5 million is the worst-selling ebook on Amazon. And these rankings update every single hour. And these rankings are all relative. So what that means is if the number 2 book in this next hour sells a whole lot more copies than the number 1 book, then in the next hour when the rankings update, they might switch positions. So the number 2 book might come number 1 and vice versa. And so you don't need a specific number of sales to hit number 1 on all of the books on all of Amazon. You just have to sell more than all the other books on all of Amazon, right? So it's not like a certain number that Amazon sets. Amazon just ranks all the books relative to how well each of them are doing in any given period of time. So here's an example of what this actually looks like on Amazon's website. So if you go to any book page on Amazon for an ebook or for a print book and you scroll down to the product details section, you'll see something here that says Amazon bestsellers rank. And so this is a book from our client, Kevin Horsley. And the rank is number 1060 paid in Kindle store. You want to make sure it's paid, not free. There's nothing wrong with having a free book on Kindle, but if you actually want to make money from royalties, it has to be a paid book and it has to have paid rankings. So it's number 1060 paid in Kindle store. And then it's number 1 in this category, which is a book category, which is for physical books. And then number 1 in these 2 Kindle categories here. And so just to give you an idea, to be number 1060 paid in the Kindle store and to hold that ranking for a month, you need 2,650 ebook sales per month, right? So a little less than 100 ebook sales per day to maintain that ranking consistently on Amazon right now. So in this presentation, we're going to talk about ebook rankings and really focus on ebook rankings. But the system, the process I'm going to share with you works the exact same way for physical book rankings as well. The only difference is that to get number 1060 paid in the book rankings versus the Kindle rankings on Amazon, it's just going to be a different amount of books sold. And so our calculator and the tools that I have, they calculate those numbers automatically for you, so you don't have to worry about that. And I'll give you the links to everything later on in the presentation. So you'll have access to these tools. But for the sake of tonight's presentation, to make sure we're crystal clear, to make sure we're all on the same page, we're going to focus just on Kindle store rankings. And the truth is that most self-published authors in most markets, you're going to sell a lot more ebooks than you are physical books. Okay, so for this book, it's number 1 in the Kindle store here. And then these are the subcategories: Kindle ebooks, education and teaching, studying and workbooks, and study skills. And it's also number 1 in this books category, right? But we're just going to focus on the Kindle store category for tonight's presentation. So one of the things you want to do is you want to choose 2 different child categories and 2 different parent categories if possible. So the parent categories are the big major categories on Amazon that might have dozens or hundreds or thousands of subcategories underneath them. So this particular book, Unlimited Memory, is number 1 in education and teaching, is the parent category, and then business and money is another parent category, right? So education and teaching and business and money in the orange, those are the parent categories. Now the child categories are the kind of lowest level category that you actually select. So if you've already published a book on Kindle, and in your dashboard you have to select 2 categories when you publish your book, those are the child categories that you select. So study skills in blue and education and reference in blue, those are the child categories, the low level, most specific categories. So the child categories are going to have less competition and be more specific to your specific niche or genre or market. Okay, and so you want to choose 2 child categories and 2 different parent categories, because if your book does really well and you're ranking well in the parent categories, for this book specifically, we're ranking well in the top 100 for business and money and education and teaching, the major parent categories with thousands and tens of thousands of books in them. And so we're getting lots of extra exposure from that. Now, the other reason I've done that for this book is because for this book, we have 2 specific ideal customers, 2 specific ideal readers, kind of different archetypes, right? So when you're doing anything in business, you want to find out exactly who is your customer and what do they want. And so when we did our research for this book, what we found out is there's 2 types of readers who are very interested in reading this book and buy it consistently. And number 1 are students. So they might be high school or university or medical school students, and they want to do better in school. They want to learn faster, remember more, have better memory, do better on tests, get better grades, right? And so it just makes sense that to be in the study skills section of education and teaching, we're going to, find those readers, right? Those readers are going to find our book because our book is in that place where they're actually looking for the types of books that fulfills that need for them, right? So it's very specific. So this specific category is very specific to our specific ideal reader for the book. So we know that these types of people, these types of students who are looking to improve their grades are going to love this book. They write 5-star reviews for this book. They recommend this book to their friends. They recommended it to their colleagues in school, right? And so it's a perfect audience for us. The other type of customer that's really perfect for this book are business people. So business people who need better business skills, better memory, right? So maybe they're accountants or attorneys or business professionals, and they want to, just have a better memory and have more confidence in the workplace and do better giving presentations and things like that. And so by improving their memory with the book, they can become better in their field. And so the business education and reference category is also perfect for that kind of ideal customer type. So when you're picking your categories on Amazon, you want to make sure that they're highly, highly relevant to who your ideal reader is, right? So if you're publishing a cookbook, you're obviously not going to put that in a romance or a thriller category on Amazon because that's irrelevant, because your ideal reader is not browsing those bestseller lists to find your book. So you want to make sure your categories are as relevant as possible. And if you can find 2 child categories and 2 different parent categories, and all those categories are highly relevant to your book, that's kind of the sweet spot where you get the most exposure and the most relevant exposure for your audience, so which means basically the most sales. So a couple tips. So first of all, you want to make sure you aim for the top 100 rankings in every category that you're going after. The reason is because if you can't rank in the top 100 in your category, Amazon's not going to actually list your book in that category. So they only show the top 100 books in each category to customers when customers are browsing on the website or on their iPhone or their app with a Kindle reader. So if you're not in the top 100 in your category, Amazon's not promoting your book. And so it's kind of like a waste of a category in essence, because you're not getting the exposure from it. So if you can, if at all possible, make sure you can rank top 100 in the categories that you select for your book, because then you're actually going to get exposure and more traffic and more sales. Now, there's over 28,700 categories on Amazon. So if it sounds like a challenge for you to get your book in top 100 of your category, it's actually not once you actually understand how this all works, because there's over 28,000 categories. So there's so many categories to choose from. And this 28,000 categories are for ebooks, for print books, and it's about 200 for audiobooks. And that's for the US and the UK. And so just to give you some data, people love this, is that 80 to 85% of the sales for ebooks in English language on Amazon are going to be in the US. So if you're publishing a book in English, it's an ebook, you're publishing it on Amazon, about 80 to 85% of your sales are going to come from the US, and about 5 to 10% of your sales are going to come from the UK, and maybe the other 5 to 10% of your sales will come from all the other countries combined, so Canada and Australia and France and Germany and so forth. And so if you look at the numbers, what does this mean? Well, it means obviously you should really focus most of your time, most of your energy, most of your effort, most of your research in the US market. So even if you live in Singapore or Sri Lanka or London, you should still focus most of your time, most of your energy, most of your effort understanding the US market for your book in English, so that you can really understand who your readers are, promote your book most effectively, most wisely, and get the most sales and most royalties and most exposure, because the US market is just so much bigger right now. So now I'm going to share with you the 5-step system to becoming a #1 bestseller. So step 1 is to find relevant bestseller categories for your book. Step 2 is to analyze the competition, to understand exactly who the competition is and understand exactly who your readers are and what they want. Step 3 is to calculate exactly how many sales you need to hit #1 in each of the categories that you found that were relevant for your book, because then you can know how many sales you need to get during your launch or during the next month of sales in order to rank #1 in those categories for your book. And then step 4 is you want to choose the 2 target categories you're going to go after based on your research, based on the analysis of the competition, based on how many sales you need to actually hit #1 or #20 or #100 in those categories. And then step 5 is we're going to just get Amazon to put you in those categories, which sounds pretty obvious, but it can be a little bit more complicated, and I'll cover why in just a minute. So step 1 is we're going to find relevant bestseller categories on Amazon. So there's a link on the screen right now. I want you to go ahead and write that down and save that. You don't have to go there right now, but after the presentation, if you want to go do more of this research on your own, that link will just save you a ton of time. So at tckpublishing.com/Amazon categories, that link will take you directly to Amazon's Kindle store bestseller rankings page, which I'll actually show you live on the webinar in just a moment. I'm going to walk you through Amazon's website and how to do all the research as a demo. But just save that link for later so you can do more research yourself and save yourself a bunch of time. So step 2 is you're going to analyze the competition. This is a crucial step. It's a step that most authors don't do. They skip this step, and that's why they fail. And the reason you fail is because you don't understand who your readers are. You don't understand who your customers are. You don't understand what they really want, and you don't understand the market. And if you don't understand all those things, then you're kind of like playing pin the tail on the donkey. I don't know if you ever played that game, or maybe you've ever like tried to hit a piñata blindfolded. It's like you have no idea where you're going, right? And so unless someone points you in the exact direction you need to go, chances of you actually, hitting it or scoring the goal or getting what you want is very slim, right? So you have to understand the market. And so one of the great things you need to understand is it a long-term market or a short-term market? So short-term markets are things like, technology. Like I've written some books on Facebook marketing and Twitter marketing, and I hate those markets now because they're short-term. So, I have to go back and update my book on Twitter and my book on Facebook like every 2 months if I want to keep it relevant. And it's so much work and it's so much effort and so much energy to go into that. And then on top of that, those books probably aren't going to be relevant in 5 years, 10 years, 50 years from now. So one of the great things about being an author is that in the US, at least, you own the copyright for your work for 75 years after you die. So you can pass it on to your children and your grandchildren, and they can still get royalties from your work. But if you're in a short-term market, there's not going to be any demand for your work, and so there's not going to be any long-term royalties. But if you're in a long-term market, like if you write fiction, if you write self-help, personal development, health, anything that's evergreen, that's going to be relevant 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, 100 years from now, you're basically guaranteed income. You're basically guaranteed royalties as long as you have a great book that people still want to buy years and years from now. So I love publishing in long-term markets, and I think if you want to create a real career as an author, it really behooves you to understand what market you're publishing in and make sure it's a long-term market, because it's just going to make your kind of success curve and your income curve just a whole lot smoother and steadier and longer lasting. You also need to understand the reader demographics. So exactly who are your readers? How old are they? How young are they? Are they mostly male? Are they mostly female? What do they really want, right? And then who's your target reader? Like, kind of visualize like exactly who is your ideal reader, and how do you speak to them, right? And I'll talk more about this when we're doing the demo in a little bit. So step 3 is going to calculate exactly how many sales you need to hit number 1 in your category. And so again, save this link on the screen. It's tckpublishing.com/calculator. So it's a calculator tool that we developed. So we took basically like this data genius took like 1 million data points and essentially mimics Amazon's sales ranking algorithm. It's the most accurate book sales calculator in the world for Amazon, and it's accurate within 6%. And it will tell you how many sales you need based on the actual sales rankings number. And step 4, you're going to choose 2 target categories for your book. So you want to aim for top 100 spots for your category to make sure you're actually getting exposure. And if possible, the real strategy you want to go for is to aim for rank number 1 for at least one category and top 20 for another, if at all possible. It's kind of like with Google. If you've ever done SEO on Google, you want to be on the first page, because if you're on the first page of Google results for a Google search, you're more likely to have someone click your listing and actually go to your website. It's the same thing on Amazon. If you're a top 20 in your category on Amazon, that's a first page result for Amazon, and you're much more likely to have someone actually find your book, click on it, go to your book page, and actually buy your book. So if possible, that's what you want to do. That's the strategy you want to pursue. And step 5 is just going to get Amazon to list your book in the target categories that you've selected. So it's real simple. You just want to email Amazon KDP support, or you can email CreateSpace support as well if you have a print book on CreateSpace. Either way, it doesn't matter. They will do this for you. So all you basically say is, hey, Amazon, please change the category of my book to, and then you're just going to copy and paste the exact category listing as you see it on Amazon's website when you do the research, or in our software tool that does this for you. Now, there are a couple of problems and challenges, and that's why I included step 5. And the problems and challenges come because of Amazon's databases and how their categories actually work. So when you look on the website on Amazon, they display BISAC categories for the books, and that's kind of like industry standard categories. But the difference is that inside Kindle publishing, inside your KDP dashboard, when you publish your own book, Amazon doesn't show you the buy side categories. They don't show you the same categories that your readers see. They show you a special set of their own in-house Amazon database categories, which are not the same thing. So essentially there's two databases: the public buy side category database that all the readers see on Amazon's website, and then Amazon's in-house database that only authors see inside your KDP dashboard. And they're different. In fact, less than 50% of all the Kindle categories that are available on Amazon's website are in your KDP account. So like if you're only researching categories inside your Kindle account, you're missing out on at least 50% of the possible categories that you can actually promote your book in. So you're missing out on a lot of the data, and you don't want to do that. And this is just because the databases just don't match up, and it's complicated. In the sense that Amazon really hasn't figured out how to match up their internal database with the public database. So the other thing is that Amazon is constantly changing the names, the locations, and the hierarchies of many of their bestseller lists frequently on the website. And Amazon's also adding new bestseller lists each and every month, right? So if you're not staying on top of this stuff, it can get really confusing. And so the reason I say step 5 is send that email to Amazon is because half the categories that you want aren't in the KDP, so you can't just go into your account and change them and select them. You actually have to email Amazon to make sure that the category you want for your book is the one they're actually going to give to you. And the best way to do this is by sending them an email. So it's going to save you a ton of time and effort and struggle later on when you know that, and just research the categories on the website or in the software, and then email Amazon, and they'll make that change for you. So what this means for you is that you need to do a minimum of researching the bestseller list on Amazon every 3 months, right? If you're serious about being an author and you really want significant book sales, you have to constantly stay up to date on what's going on in your market on Amazon's website. Because again, categories change, new categories are added all the time, and you want to make sure you're up to date. The other thing is that if you're a professional publisher, if you're, want a full-time career as an author, if you want a full-time income as an author, you need to be researching these bestseller lists and analyzing the best-selling books in your market constantly, and analyzing what your readers are saying on Amazon constantly, because the markets are constantly changing, and you really need to be up to date. You need to know what your readers want so you can actually deliver it to them. It's like the key to success in business is understanding who your customers are and what they want, and then giving them what they want. Right? Instead of just writing whatever you want to write and publishing it, hoping everyone wants to buy it, it really behooves you to understand who your customer is. So maybe you still write your book the same way, but maybe you just add a few tweaks here, a few tweaks there, remove a little bit here to really tailor it to your audience. And that can make all the difference between getting a book that averages 4-star reviews on Amazon versus a book that averages 5-star reviews, which can translate into a huge difference in sales. So now is the part where I'm actually going to demo my 5-step process and walk you through this exact process on Amazon. So to do that, I need your help. So please post a comment in the questions box and let me know, as specific as you possibly can be, exactly what market niche for nonfiction or what subgenre for fiction your book is in, so that I can actually research your specific book and your specific market on Amazon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose 2 categories. One's going to be fiction and one's going to be nonfiction, based on your comments here today. So what I'm going to do now is go to this link, tscapepublishing.com/Amazon categories, and we're going to take us right here to all of the bestseller categories on Amazon. So this is the page on Amazon. We can see all the Amazon bestsellers in the Kindle ebook store. So here it says Kindle ebooks. So we're in the Kindle ebook section of the bestseller categories on Amazon. And so the first market I'm going to research here is the health, dieting, fat loss market. So Peter is publishing in the health, dieting, fat loss market. So that's what we're going to do for our nonfiction example. So under the Kindle ebooks, you'll see here, these are all the parent categories, right? So these are all the parent categories, the major categories on Amazon with hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of books. And so what you want to do is just browse these parent categories to find the ones that are most relevant for your market. So there's actually a health, fitness, and dieting category, which is perfect for what Peter is looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and click over to this health, fitness, and dieting category. And then once you're here, what you're going to see is that there's more subcategories underneath, right? So his book is on health, dieting, fat loss. So let's see if we can find any categories here that are relevant to that. So there's a diet and weight loss category. There's an exercise and fitness category. Those are probably the 2 most relevant. So let's close with diets and weight loss. And then under here, there's, again, more subcategories here. There's diets, food counters, and special conditions. So let's just go with the diets category. And then underneath the diets category, there's even more subcategories. So you can see how complicated this can get and how many categories there can be. So again, you want to get as specific as possible. So he talked about weight loss or fat loss. So let's click the weight loss category. And then there, so now once we've clicked this category, you'll notice there's no more subcategories underneath. So that means we've actually found the child category on Amazon. This is the child category on Amazon for weight loss in the health, fitness, and dieting parent category with these different kind of categories in between in the hierarchy. And so now once you're on this category page, step one, we found a relevant category for this book on Amazon, right? So step two, what we want to do is we want to start analyzing the competition. We want to understand this market, understand what's going on in this market and what our readers want so we can give them exactly what they want so we have a good chance of succeeding. So one of the first things you want to do when you're researching your market is you want to browse the top books in your market. So I want to take a look at all these top 20 books on the first page here in this market. And I want to take a look really specifically at the book covers, okay? So I really want to study these book covers. I want to take a look at, how are they branding these books? So, what kind of fonts are they using? What kind of font types are they using? What kind of colors are they using? What kind of images are they using? Really get a feel for the book covers in your market because the book cover is crucial to your success. So, for example, if you were writing a book on weight loss here, in this market and your cover, had like this vegetarian style font, like this fancy kind of font. If your cover had only fancy font like that and it was like pink, it wouldn't really match this market, right? It would look kind of more like a romance novel than a book on weight loss. And so you want to make sure that when you design your book covers and you have your professional book cover designers design book covers for you, that you give them really clear instructions so they can actually brand your book to your market. Because when readers are clicking books on Amazon, they're not consciously thinking, oh, I love the way that bread looks on this cover. It just looks so appetizing, and right, they're not consciously thinking about this stuff. It's unconscious, right? So they make unconscious decisions immediately whether they'll like it or not, whether they're going to click it or not. And so a lot of that has to do with the branding, the colors you choose, the fonts you choose, and so forth that really attract readers to actually click your book, and which will then get you more clicks, which means you're going to get more sales. So next, what we're going to do to analyze the competition is we're actually going to click to this book page on Amazon. And so when we scroll down on this book page on Amazon, and we scroll down here to the product details section, we're going to see here the Amazon bestsellers rank. So this one is number 996 paid in the Kindle store. And then you can see that which category is number one in. So because this book is in the weight loss category, you might find some other categories that it's listed in that might be also relevant for your book, Peter. So when you find the one bestseller category is relevant for your book, check the best-selling books in those categories and see what other categories they're listed in to see if you can find more categories that are relevant for your book. So that's how you can find, just one category and expand that into maybe several relevant categories when you're doing your research. Another thing you definitely want to do when you're researching this market is you want to take a look at the book descriptions and you want to take a look at the book titles. How are they structured and what are they saying? And so in the book descriptions, you want to read all the book descriptions for all the top books in your market and see how they're doing it. And you'll see some books that have like amazing book descriptions that are really well done and really beautifully laid out. Like this one is great because it has the bullet points. I think that looks awesome. You've seen books that just have a giant wall of text with no paragraph breaks. It's horrible. It's like no one wants to read that. And so people are most likely losing sales if your description on Amazon has just no breaks and no formatting whatsoever, because no one wants to read 700 words in one paragraph. It's just very hard to slog through it all without a break. So read all the descriptions of the books in your market to really understand and take notes of which descriptions really grab your attention, which descriptions do you think really do a good job, and what kind of mistakes are other people making in the descriptions so you can avoid those mistakes. Another great thing you definitely want to do in your market is click the look inside of your books, the top books in your market, and you want to read the first 1 or 2 pages, maybe even the first chapter of these books to see how they actually draw readers in. So you're going to skip like the acknowledgments and the disclaimer, and you want to come right to the introduction or the first chapter of the book and start reading the first 1 or 2 pages and see how they draw the reader in, or if they even draw the reader in at all. Because a lot of times what your readers are going to do is they're going to come to your book page on Amazon, they're going to click look inside, they're going to start reading. And if they're not immediately drawn into your book and immediately excited about what you're writing about, you're going to lose them. And this is especially important for fiction, but it's very important for nonfiction as well. So you want to do that and to really understand how can you make the first chapter of your book so that when people read just the first paragraph or the first 2 pages, they're immediately drawn in, they click buy because they want to read more, they want more. Now, here's a nugget of pure gold. If you follow this, very few authors do this, but this will set you apart from pretty much everyone else in your market because almost no one is doing this. So what you want to do is go to Amazon and you want to read the top reviews in your market. So find all the best-selling books in your market and read the 5-star reviews and the 1-star reviews. So this book doesn't have any 1-star reviews yet, but if it sells enough copies, it definitely will, because all great books have 1-star reviews. It's just how it works over time. So you want to read all the top reviews, the 5-star and the 1-star. So the most positive reviews and the most negative reviews in your market. And you want to have a notebook with you and you want to take notes. And you want to take notes of all the things that your readers say that are important, that are common themes. So, if you read all the top books in your market and the readers say, hey, all these books are, they're too long, they're too boring, they're too clinical, they're too medical, there's too much Latin words I can't understand. If they say things like that, and like lots and lots of readers are saying the same thing over and over, that's a common complaint. It means it's a common idea or voice of your readers that's not being fulfilled, right? So if you write a book that's not making all those mistakes, it will appeal more to that segment of your readers, right? And so your readers are telling you every single day what they want on Amazon. They're reviewing all the top books in your market, and they're telling you exactly what they like, exactly what they don't like for fiction and nonfiction. And just by doing this, by spending a couple hours reading the readers in your market, by reading what your readers are saying about books in your market, you'll be light years ahead of the competition because you'll actually understand who your readers are and what they want. Okay, now step 3 is after we analyze the competition, we found some relevant categories for your book on Amazon. We're going to go ahead and calculate how many books do we actually need to sell in order to hit number 1 in this market. So if all we have to do is here come to the product details, take the Amazon bestsellers rank here for the Kindle store, just copy this number, and then go over to the sales calculator and make sure you have selecting ebook for ebooks or books for print books, and then hit calculate monthly sales. And it's going to tell you how many sales you need to hit this exact ranking in the Amazon bookstore right now. So for this book, it's selling about 2,700 copies each month on Amazon. But if you want to hit this exact ranking on Amazon in only 1 day, rather than waiting for 30 days, all you need to do is 186 sales in 1 day. So the way this formula works is if you just divide the monthly sales by 15, or if you take the daily sales and multiply that by 2, you're going to get how many sales you need in 1 day to hit the same ranking. So in other words, this book is selling about, let's say 100 copies a day, a little bit less than 100 copies a day. All you have to do is double the daily sales, and then you can hit that exact same ranking. So rather than selling 100 sales each day for 30 days, you can sell 186 sales in 1 day and achieve that same ranking. So if you're doing a book launch and hey, I've got an email list, or my friend has an email list, and we're going to do Facebook ads, and yeah, we can definitely get 200 sales, then you can hit number 1 in the weight loss category on Amazon, which is a very competitive category, with only 200 sales in 1 day, right? So that's how you actually can find out if you can rank for this category or not. So if you're brand new and you're just starting out in the weight loss market and there's no way you can get 200 sales in 1 day, well, then you're going to want to find a less competitive category in this market where you can rank well or rank for number 1. So that's step 3. And then step 4, again, is you want to choose 2 child categories and 2 different parent categories. So, we find the weight loss category, and you might find some other categories, like maybe the healthy category, the gluten-free category, or whatever categories matches for your market, and then do the analysis for those and find which 2 categories are the most relevant, which 2 categories you're going to go for. And then step 5 is you're just going to send Amazon that email. And so you can go to this page and you can say, hey, Amazon, I want to be in this category right here. And so you just select this category, copy and paste that category, and send that in the email to Amazon. Say, Amazon, please change my book to this category, and they'll do that for you within usually 24 to 48 hours. So that's the 5-step process, and that's how I would do it for this specific book for this specific market in the weight loss market. So let's now go to a fiction example. So let's do some research for the fiction market. So we have someone here, Edna is writing cozy mysteries. So let's do some research in the cozy mystery market. So I'm going to go back here to the Kindle eBooks, bestseller rankings page on Amazon, the overall rankings page for Amazon Kindle. And then we're going to find some parent categories that might be relevant for a cozy mystery novel. So if we scroll down and look at all these categories, we're going to see a couple things that might be relevant. So one category is, let's see, science fiction and fantasy. No, there we go. Mystery, thriller, and suspense. There's a mystery, thriller, and suspense category, and there's a literature and fiction category. So both those categories might be possibly relevant for a cozy mystery novel. So once we're in the mystery, thriller, and suspense parent category, we're going to go here to the mystery category. And there's a cozy mystery category. So perfect. Okay, and then underneath the cozy mystery category, there are 3 subcategories. So there's animals, crafts and hobbies, and culinary. And Edna, I don't know which one is more relevant to you, but I'm just going to go ahead and click on the animals category for the sake of the presentation so we can keep moving forward. So here we're in the cozy animal mystery category. And again, you want to do the exact same process for step number 2, which is analyzing the competition, analyzing the market, figuring out who your readers are. So when we look in this market and look at the top 20 books in this particular bestseller list, look at the covers and see how they're designed, right? What fonts are they using? What colors are you using? What images are they using? And so you can see in this market, because it's, you know, cozy mysteries with animals themes, there's a whole bunch of animals on the cover, right? So maybe that's something you want to consider if you were publishing in this market. And so let's just check like the crafts and hobbies to see if that's maybe a little bit different. So this market, again, a whole bunch of animals on the covers. You know, take a look at the colors, the images that they're using, the font types they're using. And so these look pretty similar, a little bit different. There's more kind of stuff like with like, you know, cooking, and this looks as well like a restaurant or sorry, a hair raising, like maybe a barbershop right there. So there's some different images and things that people are using in this market. And we can check the culinary one as well, see if it's any different. Again, we're seeing lots and lots of animals. We're seeing there's some pepperoni stuff, some Georgia peach truffle murder, right? So it looks like this market is pretty creative, and there's not really one solid common theme amongst all the covers, except for the animal theme is very common, and the food theme is pretty common too. But anyways, once you've kind of researched that to see, you know, how you want to design your book cover to really speak to this type of reader in this particular market, that's when you want to go and actually take a look at the top books in the market. Now, this book looks like a box set, so it's like multiple books in one. And so I'm not going to analyze that one during the webinar right now, because you're probably just going to be publishing one book at a time for the time being, at least. And so let's go ahead and check out the number 2 book, which is a standalone cozy mystery novel. So again, what you want to do is check out the book descriptions. So you want to read every book description for all the top books in your market, see what they're doing well and what they're not doing well, and how you can model the good examples to make your book descriptions even better and more appealing to your customers. You want to look inside the book. You want to read the first 1 or 2 pages of the first chapter of each of these books to see how they draw readers in. What are they doing well? What are they doing poorly in the first couple chapters? And how can you model that for your book to really draw readers in right away? It's a big mistake so many novelists make, is that the first chapter of their book is boring. It's like backstory. There's no dialogue. There's no action. Nothing's happening. And it doesn't draw readers in. And so readers go ahead and they look inside your book and they see it's just all backstory and it's boring and there's no fun, there's no adventure, there's no action until like chapter 3. And so they're not going to follow you that long if you don't get them involved in the story right away. So that's a super important part of writing fiction books that really get lots of sales and get lots of traction on Amazon. And then again, you want to come down and you want to check out the product details section. You want to see the Amazon bestsellers rank here, and we can go ahead and calculate the sales needed to be number 1 in this category or number 2 in this category in this example. So if we just calculate that there, so this book is selling about 4,700 copies per month, or 319 sales in 1 day to hit that sales ranking on Amazon. So it's a pretty competitive category, but you know, 300 sales in 1 day is not too much. If you don't have an email list already and you haven't been publishing for a while in your market, it's probably a little bit out of your reach when you're just getting started, unless you do like a BookBub promotion or some kind of big promotion. So you might want to start in a less competitive category, or maybe just aim for the top 20 spots in this category if you're just starting out. Okay, so again, the other thing you want to do in fiction just as well as nonfiction is read all the top reviews in your market, the top positive reviews and the negative reviews, and figure out exactly what your readers want. And the cool thing about fiction reviews on Amazon is they'll tell you, readers will tell you like the exact scenes they love. They'll say, you know, if you see 20 readers say, oh, I love this scene where, you know, the protagonist did this or whatever, right? You can actually go in that book and read that scene and see, okay, what about the scene draws you in? What about the scene is exciting? What about the scene speaks to your readers and why do they like it so much? And then when you're plotting your next novel, your next series, you can choose to include scenes similar to that. So you're not copying someone else, but what you're doing is you're finding out what are the kind of archetypes, what are the kind of stories, what are the kind of emotions or habits or behaviors or thoughts that are really appealing to your specific reader, so that you can when you write your book, you're appealing to your specific reader, because again, readers are telling you every single day on Amazon exactly what they want and exactly what they don't want. So that can be a huge benefit to you in your market. So Edna, I hope this was helpful for you, and I hope it's helpful for all of you fiction authors to figure out how you actually do this research for any kind of novel or fiction book or memoir on Amazon. Okay, so I'm going to head back to the presentation now and cover a little bit more details here. So first, I want to go into a learning checkup and make sure, has this been helpful for you so far? So please go ahead and write in the questions box and the chat box if this is helpful so far, and let me know if you're going to start actually applying what you've been learning, if you can actually start using this 5-step system to really understand who your readers are and how you can connect with them on a deeper level, and how you can find the right categories to get your book listed in, so you can actually get more readers who are your ideal readers to find your book, right? Because again, if you're writing a cookbook and you're in a romance category on Amazon, it's irrelevant for you, because even if you're number 1 in that category, you might get tons of exposure, but because those aren't your ideal readers, they're not going to buy your book. So you want to make sure your books are in relevant categories as well. Awesome. I'm getting lots of yeses, and everyone's saying this is very helpful. So thank you all so much. That's great. So I'm going to show you even more. So we're just getting started, really. So a big question you might be asking is like, is this going to work for me though? And I'll tell you that this system works for everyone, whether you're young, whether you're old. I've got clients in their 70s and 80s who have done very, very well on Amazon by following the same system and really understanding who their readers are. And so here's just a quick story of someone who's been doing this as well. His name is Mark Messick. He's the international best-selling author of 11 books and counting. He's only 16 years old right now. He published his first book at age 14 just a couple of years ago. And last time I talked with Mark, he was earning several $1,000s a month on Amazon from book royalties, right? He's a 16-year-old kid. Like how amazing is that? His passion is to write and to inspire people and to motivate people, and it's amazing. He's doing really well. In fact, this sent me the screenshot and just like blows my mind. So this is from a couple weeks ago. Mark Messick, the 16-year-old kid, is outselling Donald Trump on Amazon right now. I mean, it just boggles my mind. So like Donald Trump is like, he's a billionaire. He's had, I don't know how many dozens of traditional book deals from major publishers with huge advances. He's got all these big publishers promoting his books. And, on top of that, he's running for president in the United States. And he's like probably the person in the world who's getting more media attention than anyone else in the world right now. And all of that's going on, and Mark is still outselling him on Amazon, this 16-year-old kid, right? How is that possible? And the reason is because when you really understand who your readers are, you understand exactly what they want and what they need and how to give them what they want, there is no competition, right? Because no one else is doing this, right? No one else is actually spending the time reading the reviews of their readers on Amazon, finding out exactly what they want, doing surveys, listening to their market, answering emails personally, really getting to know their audience, so that when you write that next book, you can speak directly to your reader. You can give them, if you're writing nonfiction, you can give them better information, more helpful information, help them overcome their challenges and their struggles and obstacles. If you're writing fiction, you can write better stories, better storylines with more exciting scenes and less boring scenes, and that really speak to your reader and really speak to their imagination. And you do it by understanding your market, by listening to your reader and really, just listening. And that's really the key to success, is you have to understand who your audience is and give them what they want. And so to do that, you have to get your ego out of the way, right? Like if Mark was just like, I'm 16, I know everything, I'm a genius, all this stuff, and just wrote whatever he wanted and didn't care about his audience, he wouldn't be successful. He wouldn't be selling thousands of books. He does it because he cares, because he's got his ego out of the way, which is hard for anyone to do, let alone a teenager, right? It's hard for anyone to do that, but that's kind of what you have to do to succeed, is to step your ego aside and really take the time to listen and understand your audience. Now, I'm not sure if you saw the presentation so far, you've been with us all along, you've seen, that it can take a lot of time to find the right categories for your book, and it can be a lot of work, but there's actually an easier way to do it, and it's called Bestseller Ranking Pro. It's a software tool that I developed just for myself and for the publishing company to save me a ton of time. And so I want to show you now how to use it and how it can just make this whole process so much faster and easier for you. So I'm just going to go over to Bestseller Ranking Pro right here. And so when you log into your Bestseller Ranking Pro account, the first thing you're going to see is going to tell you how many categories on Amazon it's currently tracking. So it's currently tracking 28,700 bestseller categories on Amazon. This is how many for US ebooks, for US physical books, for US audiobooks, for the UK ebooks and UK physical books. And then if you go over here to the rankings, we can actually check out the rankings for any particular category. So before we went to the health, fitness, and dieting category, I researched Peter's book on weight loss. And so we can go through here through Bestseller Ranking Pro and do the same thing just a whole lot faster. So what you'll see here when you go to the actual rankings page for this parent category on Amazon in Bestseller Ranking Pro, the first thing you're going to see here is the exact category listing. So this is the exact category listing that you can just copy and paste and send in an email right to Amazon, and they'll change you this category right away. Next, we have the URL. So this is the link to this exact page on Amazon. So when you want to go and do step 2 and analyze the competition and check out the book covers and do all that, you can see it right here, right on Amazon. You can go right away to this category on Amazon and research this market, analyze the competition, check out the reviews for the top books in this market at the click of a button. Next, what it does is going to tell you how many sales you need to get number 1 in this category on Amazon right now. So if you want to get number 1 in the addiction and recovery market on Amazon, you need about 1,258 sales per month. If you use that rule of 15, like I taught you before, just divide by 15, that's a little less than 100 sales in one day in order to get number 1 in this market. If you just want to be top 20, so you want to be on page 1 but not at number 1 position, all you need is 200 sales per month, right? Which is, you divide that by 15, what is that, like 15 sales, like 14, 15 sales. So if you do a launch and you only have 15 sales during your launch, you can still be page 1 in the addiction and recovery category on Amazon, which is really, really good. And if you're in a very competitive market, maybe you can't hit number 1, you can't hit number 20, maybe you can hit number 100 spot. So in this category, you only need 62 sales per month, which is about 4 sales in one day to hit the top 100 in this category. So you're still getting some exposure. Now, the really cool thing about Bestseller Ranking Pro is what it'll do, you scroll down the bottom page, it'll tell you how many categories are actually here. So there's 271 subcategories in the health, fitness, and dieting parent category. And you can actually search. So if you want to look at only the categories on weight loss, here we just type in the search box weight, and it'll tell us, and it'll show us only the categories that have to do with diets and weight loss, right? And this one has to do with weight training because we search for weight. So that's how you can kind of really quickly analyze the categories without wasting a ton of time, because searching through hundreds and hundreds of categories that aren't relevant can take you a little bit more time. So the search feature is just awesome and just save you a ton of time. The other really cool thing you can do is you can organize by competitiveness. So after we've searched or before we search, doesn't really matter. We can go over here to the category here and just click this, and it'll organize by competitiveness. So it's going to have the most competitive categories here at the top. So if you want to be number 1 in the most competitive health, fitness, and dieting category, right now that's going to be the marriage category. And you have to be number 87 in the Kindle store without 16,000 sales per month. Divide that by 15, that's maybe 1,100 sales in one single day to get number 1 in this category on Amazon, which is a whole lot of work. It's a whole lot of sales. So maybe that's too competitive for you, so you can keep scrolling down until you find a category where you think, okay, I can definitely rank number 1 for that category based on how big my audience is or how big my platform is or what you're doing for your launch, right? So you can organize by competitiveness. So you can also just do it the opposite way. You can organize by the least competitive categories. So here there's a whole bunch of categories in health, fitness, and dieting that 2 to 3 sales in a single day will get you number 1 in all these categories right here. So very non-competitive categories. You'll also notice these categories here, this has no book in this ranking here. And if you click that page, what this means is this is a brand new category on Amazon. So this category on Amazon, this bestseller list, has only 1 book in it. So that means if you publish a book on Amazon like today and you get 1 sale and it's in the Aikido bestseller category, you'll be a number 2 bestseller at least in this category because there's no other competition, because this is a brand new category. So that's another really cool thing about this software is it's going to pick up all the brand new, most new categories on Amazon that really no one else even knows about. So even if you're just starting out and you have no audience, no platform yet, you can still be a bestseller on Amazon in these categories that are not competitive at all. So that's an example of how you can use this for the nonfiction market. If you want to go over back to the ebooks section, we can go to the mysteries, thriller, and suspense category, and we can check out more categories that might be relevant for Edna's cozy mystery novel, right? So there's only 51 mystery, thriller, and suspense categories, but again, we can organize by competitiveness. So here's the most competitive categories at the top, or we can organize by least competitiveness by clicking it again. And so here's the least competitive category. So if we want to just be in the mystery and detective category, we only need 2,400 sales per month, which is still quite a bit. So if you divide that by 15, what is that? A couple hundred sales in a day, maybe like 200 sales in a day, something like that. So it's not too competitive, but it's still moderately competitive. If we want to be the top 20 spot in this category, we only need 112 sales per month. Now that's not competitive at all. So you divide that by 15, what is that, like 8 sales, 7 sales in a day? So you get 8 sales in one day, and you can be front page on this mystery, thriller, and suspense category. To get in the number 100 spot, all you need is 18 sales per month, which is like, anyone can do that. It's like 1 or 2 sales in a day, and you can be top 100 in this category. So that's just a quick sample of kind of what Bestseller Ranking Pro can do and how it can make this whole research process so much easier for you. So let's go over a quick learning recap again. I want to make sure you really have this 5-step system down to understand how to get your book to #1 bestseller on Amazon. So first, you're going to find the relevant bestseller categories in your market by doing your research, either on Amazon's website with the link I gave you or with the software tool. Step 2 is you're going to analyze the competition. You really want to understand exactly who your readers are. You want to understand what the competition is doing, what the book covers look like, reading the reviews of your readers, reading the book descriptions, reading the first 1 or 2 pages of the first chapters of the top books in your market to see how they're doing things and how you can model their success. At step 3, you need to calculate exactly how many sales you need to hit #1 or number 20 or number 100 for your category. So based on your sales expectations, where you can land in that category in terms of the bestseller rankings. Step 4 is you're going to choose the 2 child categories and 2 different parent categories if at all possible and if relevant for your market. And then step 5 is you're just going to send that email to Amazon to get them to list your book in your new categories. So my question to you is, have I delivered on my promise to you to show you how to get your book to #1 bestseller on Amazon? Awesome, lots of yeses and absolutely is great. Thank you guys. I'm glad you've enjoyed this presentation so far. I've got a little bit more for you I think you're going to love. So what I want to do now is show you how to learn even more. So, I've taught you as much as I possibly can in the hour we have tonight, but I'm sure you understand that there's so much more to this and there's so much more I would love to teach you. And if you want to learn, I'm here to teach. And so my goal when I created the Bestseller Ranking Pro software was to create a simple system that would allow really just me personally, first and foremost, to do this research much faster for my clients, because the publishing company, we're publishing so many books each month, and I needed to just find a way to save myself some time. And I really quickly realized this was so valuable for me that I knew it was going to be useful for other publishers out there. And so then I actually made this public. So I made Bestseller Ranking Pro public in the beta program a little over 2 years ago. And I wanted to make it so simple that any author, any publisher, whether you're brand new or super experienced, could find the ideal categories for your book on Amazon in just 5 minutes. And that's exactly what Bestseller Ranking Pro does. And so here's some stuff that our students have been saying so far. Ann Wolfinger said, the system is going to work for you. She said, Bestseller Ranking Pro takes the mystery out of Amazon rankings like nothing else I've seen and gives authors and publishers a serious edge on the competition. Do yourself a favor and grab it while you can. You'll save yourself a boatload of time and uncertainty, not to mention downright frustration spent wondering why someone else's book zoomed to the top of the charts on Amazon while yours never got off the ground. And then we have lots of other people just sharing in our Facebook group their results. So David posted, my book, Dead South, his novel is #1 on Amazon UK's post-apocalyptic bestseller chart after he picked his category with Bestseller Ranking Pro. Barry Silber wrote he's #1 in risk management, #1 in communication management, #1 in management science. His first day out on Kindle, thanks to Bestseller Ranking Pro. And you can actually see in the screenshot, his bestseller ranking was 3,482. So you can actually use that free Amazon book sales calculator link I had before, copy in 3,482, and see exactly how many sales he sold up to that point when he took the screenshot on the first day of his launch, which is pretty cool. Lee posted she's happy to report her client hit #1 and free on Amazon, #4 another category, #13 in another. And then later in her comments, she said she's used Bestseller Ranking Pro 3 times for different clients. One was for a pre-order full price book. The other was a 99-cent book. They were all in different categories. One was marketing, advertising. One was diet, health. One was in fiction, and every single one of them hit #1 on the launch day, which is just really cool. So I normally recommend people do paid promotions, but even if you're doing free promotions, it can still help you quite a bit. Now, even if you're not here, to make a ton of money or to get a ton of sales for your book, but you really just want exposure, you're on a mission, this is what Jeanette has been able to do. She's a mom on a mission to stop baby and adoption human trafficking that's happening all over the world, and she's been able to get her message out there in a huge way thanks to Bestseller Ranking Pro, thanks to these tools. So it's just awesome to see, there's so much more possibility out there besides just making money, is that you can make a difference with your work, you can change people's lives, you can educate people, you can entertain people, you can make a difference with your work, but you have to really understand your market and be able to do that, right? So you can't just be someone who's passionate about what you do, you have to be passionate and knowledgeable and doing things in the right way by understanding your audience and giving your audience what they want. So here's a quick summary of what Bestseller Ranking Pro does. So it tracks all 28,700 bestseller lists on Amazon in the US and UK for ebooks, print books, and audiobooks. It's organized by competitiveness, as you saw before with the click of a button. You can see the most competitive or the least competitive categories in your market. There's that quick and easy search function, so you can immediately type in what you're looking for, whether it's romance or thriller or children's books or whatever, and find exactly what you're looking for. It automatically calculates exactly how many sales you need to hit #1 using the world's most accurate Amazon sales rank algorithm model that models Amazon's algorithm within 6% accuracy. It also links directly to each bestseller category page on Amazon, so you can do more research on Amazon's website, all that market analysis, that step 2, analyzing the competition with just a click of a button. So normally, lifetime access to Bestseller Ranking Pro is $297. You can go to bestsellerrankingpro.com anytime you want, and that's the price you'll pay for lifetime access. But when you join today, I'm going to give you a special offer, as you know, for showing up today to really learn and to be so invested and interested in your own education. I want to help as many people as I possibly can. And so here's what you're going to get when you join Bestseller Ranking Pro today. You're going to get lifetime access to all the Bestseller Ranking Pro tools that you've seen already. You're going to get 30+ video lessons and tutorials that walk you through the information we've shared tonight, but a whole lot more detail, things like keyword categories and short reach categories and all kinds of other great things that you can do to promote your book on Amazon. You're going to get access to our private Facebook group just for Bestseller Ranking Pro members. You're going to get weekly bestseller ranking updates with new categories and changes from Amazon. So we're constantly updating our listings. You saw earlier, the last update was September 24th, which is like, as recent as it gets. So we're constantly updating the software, constantly giving the most recent data, and you don't have to download anything. It's super easy to use. All you do is log in, and all the data is right there for you at your fingertips. You also get the detailed market analysis and research videos. So this is where I actually go through kind of my 5-step process, and I really do step number 2. I analyze the competition. I analyze that market for you. In all the major markets and genres on Amazon. So if you have no experience yet as an author, in those videos I kind of detail, what you need to know about the health and fitness market, what you need to know about the mystery market, and so forth, so you can really understand that market, understand who your customers are, and really be, way ahead of the competition. And on top of that, I'll get all your questions answered for you. So I answer all our students' questions and make sure you have all the information you need to succeed. So for you guys today, it's a special deal. It's a one-time investment of only $197 for lifetime access to Bestseller Ranking Pro and all the other tools I just mentioned. So if you're interested, if you're ready to go, just go to tckpublishing.com/special, tckpublishing.com/special to get this special offer. Now there's even more. I'm going to share some other awesome bonuses with you today for you guys who sign up and decide to join today. So first, fast action bonus number 1 is I'm going to give you my email marketing mastery video training course. It's my step-by-step training course on exactly how to set up your email list. I'm going to show you how to get your first 1,000 email subscribers. I'm going to show you how to use email marketing to make your book launches wildly successful. And there is no technology or web experience needed whatsoever. So if you have the experience to open your email, show up to this webinar, to be on this page, to watch this video, you have all the experience you need to be able to become a professional email marketer if you follow the trainings in these tutorial videos. So just like today when I was demoing on Amazon's website, where to go, where to click, I did that same thing in this video training course, except it's much more slower and much more detailed, so you can follow along every step of the way. And in this course, I'm actually going to show you not just how to build your email list, but actually how to set up your author website. So if you don't have an author website yet, that's covered in this course. It's just like, for me, it's just like the most basic fundamental training everyone needs to have. And so that's the first step. is setting up your author website and then getting your email list set up and then building your email list. That's all included in this bonus, the Email Marketing Mastery video training course. Fast action bonus number 2 is you're going to get access to the members only Q&A sessions. And this is where you can ask any question you want about marketing, promotions, bestseller lists, whatever it is in your business for your publishing career. And you'll get detailed research information either from me or from a guest expert who I'll bring in if it's something I don't know about. So if someone asks about, like distributing books in the library, something like that, I'll get an expert who really understands that market to come in and walk you through that process. You also get access to all the previously recorded Q&A sessions as well. And then any future questions you have. So this is where I really go kind of above and beyond to make sure you have everything you need to succeed, because I know one of the biggest challenges to becoming successful in a new career, or really any career, is that you have to have mentors. You have to have someone who can guide you, who can help you get over the roadblocks and the challenges and the struggles that come up along the way, because it happens for all of us. And so that's why I've added this in here, is because I want to make sure if you have a challenge, if you have a problem that you're stuck with, I want to make sure you have all the information you need to get around that challenge, to get around that roadblock, so you can keep moving forward and achieve your dreams and become a best-selling author. Now, fast action bonus number 3 is the top 6 interviews with best-selling authors. So you're going to hear from an author who sold more than 2 million self-published novels on Amazon. He actually turned down a multi-million-dollar traditional publishing deal because he said, quote, "I can earn more money self-publishing my books than a traditional publisher could ever pay me." So that's a really cool interview and tons of value and just a wealth of wisdom in that interview. You're going to hear from a New York Times bestselling novelist who self-publishes, and she was pretty new when she became a New York Times bestseller. She was a self-published author, not traditionally published, and she didn't really have a big platform, but the way she became a best-selling author was by partnering with lots of other authors in her field, and they all became New York Times bestsellers together. It's a brilliant strategy. It's still something you can do today to help you sell a massive amount of books, even if you don't have a big platform. And it's just a really cool strategy that I think a lot more authors should be doing. And it really involves with collaboration and finding out your fellow authors and working with them instead of trying to compete with them. And it's a brilliant thing, and I think everyone should be doing that and thinking in that way, because the more you work together with people, the farther you're going to go, and the more people you're going to be able to help with your message or your story. You're also going to hear from an average guy who got 40,000 free downloads for his first book launch, and it was in a very niche market. So the market was like, blood testing for health. It's like a super niche market, right? And he got 40,000 free downloads with some really cool promotion strategies, and he became kind of this leader in his field. And it's just a brilliant strategy that I think you can model and use to help your promotions be more successful as well. Now, I also have a 30-day no questions asked guarantee. So if you're not absolutely thrilled with your investment in Bestseller Ranking Pro, just ask for a 100% full money back refund anytime within 30 days. I want to make sure you're absolutely thrilled. I want to make sure you're happy. I want to make sure this is working for you. If it's not, just ask for the refund. We'll part ways. It's not a big deal. I want to make sure this is something that's going to work for you. Whenever I bought so many different training courses and seminars and software tools, and it's nothing more frustrating for me personally than to buy something and think, oh, this is what I need to succeed, and then I get it, and it's not what I want. It's not what I expected. It doesn't work for me. And then I feel like, I wasted all that time and money. And so I don't want you to feel that way. That's why we have this refund policy, to make sure you can test it out, you can use it, you can see that it works for you. And if you're happy with it, you keep it. If you're not, get your money back. Then it just makes sense to me, and we can part ways and still be friends and still work together later on in the future. So right now, a quick summary of the offer, and then we're going to get into all the questions. I'm going to answer all your questions for you. So you're going to get lifetime access to Bestseller Ranking Pro. You're going to get lifetime updates automatically, so there's no downloads required, there's no software, you don't have to be a tech genius to use it. You just log in, and all the data is right there at your fingertips, super easy to use. You're also going to get the Email Marketing Mastery video training course. You're going to get the Bestseller Ranking Pro Q&A sessions. You're going to get the top 6 interviews with best-selling authors, and lifetime access to our private Facebook group as well. So that's it. So again, normal price is $297. Today, only on the webinar, the special price is $197. It's a one-time only fee. There's no ongoing payments or billing or anything like that. It's just a simple $197 one-time investment, and you have access to a Bestseller Ranking Pro and all of these bonuses as well. So if you're interested, come join us at tckpublishing.com/special. And this offer expires this coming Monday at midnight Pacific Standard Time. So I don't remember the exact date, but it's this coming Monday at midnight Pacific Standard Time. This offer will expire and it's no longer on the table. So that's it. I'm excited to work with you guys. I hope you found this presentation valuable. And now I'm going to go ahead and dive in and get all your questions answered. So Elizabeth asked if Amazon bestsellers rank is only for ebooks or for print books too. So the Amazon bestseller rank is separate for ebooks and print books. So there's a separate Amazon bestsellers rank for ebooks than there is for print books, but they both have an Amazon bestsellers rank. It just requires a different amount of sales to get the rank in each different area. So the calculator I have and the Bestseller Ranking Pro tool I have, it automatically calculates the exact sales you need, whether it's an ebook or a print book. You just have to tell the software which one it is. So Don asked, how do we calculate the number of books sold per month based on the store ranking? So essentially, this data genius took like 1 million data points. So he took a whole bunch of data from all these different publishers of how their books were selling and what their sales rank were and all that, and put that into like a machine learning algorithm model. It's some super complex stuff I don't understand. And basically, just it's the exact same type of algorithm, a machine learning algorithm that Amazon uses for their own algorithm. And so it kind of mimics Amazon's algorithm, and it's been tested and tested and tested, and it's accurate within about 6% accuracy. So I hope that answers the question on how the software actually calculates how many books you need to sell for a certain sales ranking. So Bill was asking, like, how do you change the physical book category for your book? So so in this presentation, we just covered the ebooks, but it's the same thing for print books. So in Bestseller Ranking Pro, you'll go through the books categories, or on the Amazon website, you'll go through the books categories for physical books. You'll find the relevant categories you want for the physical books categories. And then you can just email CreateSpace or KDP support, either one. That actually doesn't matter. They'll both change your categories for your physical book for you. You just have to tell them you want the categories changed for the physical listing versus the ebook listing. Elizabeth was asking if ebooks for kids sell more than physical books. So it depends. So if you're talking about like children's literature, then those kind of books will sell more in ebooks, generally speaking. If you're talking about children's picture books, like 20, 30, 40 pages, children's picture books, activity books, things like that, those tend to sell much more heavily in physical format than in ebook format, and they'll also tend to sell really well like in libraries and things like that. So hope that answers your question, Elizabeth. Rick was asking if you can change your parent and child categories later. So absolutely, you can always change your categories at any time on Amazon. So if you change your categories after this webinar, you do some new research, you change your categories, you can do that. 2 days later, you decide to switch your categories again, you can do that. It's not an issue. You can change your categories on an unlimited amount of times, and Amazon has no problem with that whatsoever. Now, having said that, you wouldn't want to change your categories like every day for a year, because it's just a waste of energy and effort. You don't need to, but you should never feel like, oh, I can't change my category. You can change as much as you possibly want. You just want to make sure you're choosing the categories that are most relevant for your market. Yes, is it important to have many reviews on Amazon? How much does it help to get you better rankings? So absolutely, reviews on Amazon are play a huge role in sales. So, the average book on Amazon, I think it has like 4.2 stars. So that's the average book is like 4.2 stars. So if your book is like below average, that's a good sign that there's something wrong with your book. Assuming you have at least like 20, 25 reviews and they're objective, right? So it means that there's probably something wrong with your book. Maybe you have editing errors. Maybe it's not a good fit for your market. Maybe, formatting errors or something like that. So if you have, below 4.2 average reviews, there's probably a good bit of room to actually improve your book. If you're above the 4.2 star average, that's a good sign that you're actually doing something right. Again, assuming that they're objective. So if you have 20 reviews and they're all from your friends and family, that's not objective at all, and it's not really going to give you a fair picture of how good your book actually is. But in terms of actually like conversions and sales, what I've noticed is that if you have at least 6 reviews with a 4.5 star average or higher, that's pretty much enough to start getting you some really good conversions. So when you go from like 6 reviews at 4.5 star average to like 60 reviews or 600 reviews, it doesn't make that big of a difference. Once you get over 100 reviews though, it kind of, after 100 reviews, I've noticed another kind of curve where, that's just so many reviews that, it's hard to fake 100 reviews. And if it's really high star average, like 4.5 star, 5 star average, that's a sign that your book is pretty darn good, and you're generally going to be selling a fair bit of copies at that point. So I hope that helps answer your question. Okay, so Patricia asked about pricing. Some books are 99 cents, some books are $14.99. So pricing is irrelevant in terms of the Amazon bestseller rankings. So Amazon counts sales, they don't count prices. So if you get 1,000 sales at 99 cents, it's the same as 1,000 sales at $99. To Amazon when they calculate the rankings. So that's one of the reasons why when you like launch a book or you do a Kindle countdown deal at 99 cents or you launch the book at 99 cents, that can be a really good strategy because it's just easier to get more sales and easier to get higher rankings when you first launch your book. Daniel was asking if the same technique will work for the Spanish language section on Amazon, and yeah, absolutely. So it's the same strategy, it's the same process. It's like because people are people all over the world, whether they speak English or Spanish or German or Chinese, people are the same, and so you have to really understand who are your readers and what do they want. And one of the easiest ways to do that nowadays is just to go online and read the reviews on Amazon and see what your readers want, and go ahead and give that to them. So yeah, absolutely, this works for any language. Susan asked, where is the ranking calculator? So you can get the free ranking calculator at tckpublishing.com/calculator. Oh, and also the free copy of my book, The Book Marketing Bible, that link is at the bottom of the screen as well. It's tckpublishing.com/webbonus3. Jacqueline asked, what should I do if I have no email list yet? So, I mean, the first thing you need to do if you don't have an email list yet is start building your email list, create your author website, really start doing that, because one of the things I didn't mention, forgot, is having an email list is so important, so crucial to your success, because the biggest asset you have in business is your list of customers, right? So when any company buys another company, the first thing to look at how they really determine the value of that acquisition is by determining their customer database, right? Who are their customers, how much will they going to buy, and so forth. And as a publisher, as a self-published author, traditionally published author, doesn't matter. In this business, you are never going to get your the contact information for your readers. So when you sell a book on Amazon or Barnes & Nobles, in a bookstore, in a library, they never send you their readers' information. You don't get their names, their phone numbers, their emails, nothing. And so if you're not, you don't have a place in your book, at the beginning of your book, in the back of your book, where you're actively asking readers, hey, sign up for my free newsletter to get more books like this or get more information. If you're not doing that, you're missing out on really the number one asset in business, which is your customer database. And so that's why having that email list is so important. And so, everyone starts at zero. I started out at zero just like everyone else. And the way that you build this business up over time is that you build your email subscribers, so that when you launch your next book, right? Maybe your first book, you only sell 100 copies, but maybe you get, 10 people who sign up for your email list. And when you send them an email for your next book, that's 10 sales, right? And you all saw in those rankings, 10 sales in one day can get you ranking in the top, 10 or top 20 or number one spot for hundreds or thousands of categories on Amazon. So you don't need a huge email list to become a best-selling author. You just need a little one, and it just snowballs from there. So that every time you launch a new book, once you have an email list, you're essentially guaranteed every time you launch a book to sell more and more and more and more books, because you're building up your audience the right way and you actually own it, right? You don't own your following on Twitter or Facebook or anything like that, because they can shut down at any time, and most people don't even see this stuff anyways. Like less than 2% of people see your tweets and less than 6% of people see your Facebook posts. But like 20% is the average for industry open rates for email. So you're just going to get way, way, way more sales, way, way, way more conversions, and a much better relationship with your readers by building that email list. So if you don't have one yet, I would start right away, for sure. So Don said, Tom, you said finding the categories on Amazon and finding it in KDP don't work. Why do the Amazon research? So Don, what I meant was that the research works. So when you actually do the research in Bestseller Ranking Pro or on Amazon's website, those are the categories that readers actually see. The rankings that don't work, the database that doesn't work, is the one inside your KDP account. So that's the one you shouldn't use. So inside your KDP account, when you publish your book, you have to choose two categories. You can just choose whatever categories you want. Try to choose the most relevant ones you want. But when you actually do this research, you want to do the research where readers actually see it, which is on the Amazon bestseller rankings pages or in the Bestseller Ranking Pro software. That's the real categories that readers actually see. It's not the database inside of KDP. So once you do that research, you want to copy and paste, create that list of your relevant categories, and then just send Amazon the email as soon as your book is published and say, hey, please switch my book to these categories. So this research absolutely does work. The only thing that doesn't work is just Amazon's internal database of categories in KDP is the thing that is just kind of messes it all up. So you just get around that by just kind of ignoring it, essentially. Flora said, Amazon just arrived in Brazil. Would it be easier to find categories and gain market share there? So absolutely. So I actually just interviewed an author who in Spain, he had like the #1 self-help book in all of Spain in 2015. He sold tens of thousands of books in Spain and just dominated that market because again, like Brazil, it was a new market. He really did his research well there. He got some good promotions there. He understood the power of really promoting his book and marketing it there, and it was a great book. And so this is so much easier to rank in markets like Brazil that are brand new and just opened because there's less competition and the markets are growing and Amazon's investing heavily in those markets. It's kind of like publishing on Kindle like in 2010, like there's no competition. Like before I even got started, I mean, there was like no competition. So people, who published back then, self-published back then, even if they were just mediocre books, but they did a pretty darn good job of promoting and they got to the top of the charts on Amazon, they could sell thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. I mean, some people sold millions of ebooks before anyone else even knew you could self-publish on Kindle. Before I even published on Kindle, John Locke had already sold over 1 million ebooks. So on Amazon Kindle. So absolutely, whenever there's a new market, there's a huge opportunity for sure. Especially for something like Brazil, where it's a huge, there's a ton of people in Brazil. I think it's like 300 million people speak Portuguese or something like that. It's massive. So it's a very big market. Elizabeth asked, if you have a book series, like a series of novels or something, should all the books in that series be listed in the exact same categories, or is it good to spread them over many categories? So Elizabeth, that's a great question. So generally speaking, when you have a series of books, the most important one is the first book in the series, right? So that's why sometimes people will have the first book be free or the first book be 99 cents or $2.99, like a low price point to get people into the series. So hopefully they'll buy the rest of the books. So with that in mind, you want to focus really on the first book in your series and make sure that first book is in the optimal categories to get you the most exposure, most clicks, and most sales. After that, so there's a couple ways to do it. So it depends on your market, right? So if you're in a market where, let's say there's 10 relevant categories for your series and you have 10 relevant categories, then it kind of makes sense to test and see, having your books in those different categories to see kind of which ones are converting the best and getting you the most sales, right? If you're in a market where there's only like 2 or 3 relevant categories, then it kind of doesn't matter. There's only 2 or 3 relevant categories anyways, so all your books should be in those most relevant categories. So it really just depends on your market. But if you have like 10 relevant categories you could test in, I would say test your different books in those different categories to see which ones are grabbing you the most sales and traffic over time. Ken asked if we plan to expand Bestseller Ranking Pro into other markets like Germany or Japan. We don't, not right now. So the reason is because those markets are just so incredibly small. You're not really going to get much value there, right? So I mean, we've looked at the data in those markets, we've checked it out, but it's so small and it's so minuscule that even if you live in Germany and even if you write in the German language, you're going to probably make so much more money by translating your book into English and publishing it in the US market and marketing it there and doing your research in the US market because the market is just so much bigger right now. So as these other markets are growing over the next 5-10 years, I expect the German market and Brazil market and a couple other markets to really get big enough where it makes sense for us to have those category rankings. But right now it doesn't. And so the reason we don't have the category rankings for those countries is because we don't want to waste your time. And we don't want to have people going through all these thousands of categories in really tiny markets. It's just not it's just not where you should be spending your time. You should be spending your time really studying the U.S. market for the vast majority of our students. So that's why. Philip asked if he can ask Amazon to add a category for his market. You can't. I mean, you can try, but they're not going to add categories based on your feedback. That's just not how they do it. A couple people are asking about the free copy of the Book Marketing Bible. So again, the link is at the bottom of the slide on the screen. It's at tckpublishing.com/webbonus3. So Alberto asked, he's in Mexico City, how can he sell his ebooks on Amazon US in the Amazon.com store? Absolutely. So you just go to kdp.amazon.com, create an account, and you can publish your book, upload your book there. So I actually have some free training videos that will walk you through that process. It's at ebookpublishingschool.com. So if you go to ebookpublishingschool.com, Alberto, the first video will show you how to create your account or how to format your book for Amazon, and the second video shows you how to create your account and publish your book on Amazon. So you can do it from any country in the world. Rick asks, what do we offer for learning marketing strategies and how to increase your traffic, etc.? So inside Bestseller Ranking Pro, there's a couple of videos that will talk about some promotion strategies that you can use. Bonus number 1 is the email marketing made easy video training course. That's going to help you a lot as well, getting your email marketing list set up and how to use that list to actually get you more sales. I have another course called the Complete Kindle Publishing course, and that has several hours of training on marketing and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, you can just email me at tom@tckpublishing.com, and I can just send you more info on my other course that walks you through the basics for everything from formatting your ebook for Kindle to publishing it on Kindle, and then some of those marketing strategies as well. So Peter asked, great question, is it better to be, in a big category with tons of people checking it where you're not ranking well, or to be in a small category where you're ranking really well, maybe number 1? So generally speaking, you want to be number 1 in at least one category if possible. So if it's possible for you to be number 1 in a relevant category in your market, that's great, because you're going to get that number 1 bestseller tag in search, assuming you have enough sales. So it's going to help you just get more conversions. And then you can be maybe number 100 or number 80 or number 70 in a more competitive category. So that's kind of the best strategy, is to kind of aim for number 1, top 20 in one category, and have your other book be ranking in a really competitive category. But it just depends. So if you're selling less than 100 copies a month, then it's not going to be that big of a deal for you. If you're selling like 1,000 copies a month, then you want to be in the big categories. So the more books you're selling, the more it's really going to benefit you to be in a big category, because you're going to be able to rank really well in those big categories. Sonia asked if I recommend waiting to launch a book until you have the email list. So no, I launched the book right away. Putting things off is very rarely a good strategy. So the great thing about publishing your first book as soon as possible is that you're going to be able to get some reviews, you're going to be able to get some readers, you're going to be able to get some feedback and see how you can improve the book and what your readers really like and what they don't like. And that real world feedback is invaluable. And by having the book published, in your book, you're asking people to sign up for your email list at the beginning and the end of your book. So you're building your email list from your book, right? If you're trying to build an email list without a book yet, unless you have a blog or a podcast or a YouTube channel, you're not going to be able to really build your list effectively. So I wouldn't delay launching a book until after you have a big email list, because it's kind of like chicken before the egg problem. So Desmond asked, how do I identify my readers? So I mean, again, it's going through the reviews on Amazon is a great way to do it, because they'll tell you, you'll see all kinds of comments and they're like, oh, I found this book on such and such blog or such and such website. And so you can see, oh, well, readers of this book are reading this website. So you can go to that website and see what they're writing about and who those audience people, who their audience is and so forth. And sometimes when you go to websites like that, they might have like an advertising kit or a media kit. And so you can go download their advertising kit and they'll tell you who the demographics are, how many are male, how many are female, how many people visit the website, what their biggest needs and wants and all that stuff is, how much it costs to send an email out and all that stuff. And so you can kind of get a feeling for it that way. So it's really just by studying your market and by reading the reviews and studying the big blogs and books in your market and so forth. So if you go to Google and type in like romance novel plus blog or weight loss book plus blog or something like that, you can see the top websites for people in your market, and they'll have so much more information for you about who your audience is and how you can reach them. Akon was asking if we'll publish this book for free. So if you're interested in submitting your books to TCK Publishing to see if we want to publish them for you, just go to tckpublishing.com and click submission guidelines at the top, and you can see what we require when we review books to see if we want to publish them or not. Rick asked, how important is your book cover? It's super important. It's crucial to your success. Yeah, I mean, it makes a huge difference. So that's why I spent so much time in the presentation talking about why you want to check out the best book covers, all the best books in your market, to see how they're doing things and find the most attractive covers in your market. And then what you can do is you can take, let's say, the 10 best books in your market. You can have the best book covers and copy those links and then email that to your cover designer and say, hey, these are the book covers in my market I think look the best and do the best job. I want something that is akin to these, right? And so you're not trying to copy someone else's book cover, but you're trying to kind of model the best elements from the best covers in your market to get something that's really going to speak to your audience, that's going to present your book professionally and as well as you can. So Donna asks, how does free downloads during a free promotion affect your paid sales rankings essentially? And it has no effect. So it used to be very different, but today in 2016, when you do a free book promotion, you might do 40,000 free downloads. It has zero effect on your paid sales rankings. So it will affect your free sales rankings, but it will not affect your paid sales rankings. That's why when most people do free promotions nowadays, they'll like cancel their free promotion at like 6 p.m. in the last day to get the kind of more exposure and more sales, hopefully for the paid book as soon as it goes off the free charts and onto the paid charts. And people will also often maybe email their email list or do some kind of promotion, the very next day to get as many paid sales as possible right after the free promotion to keep that momentum going and to get your paid sales ranking back up as quickly as possible. So Cal asks, how can you see the free Kindle books in his market? So if you just go to any of those Amazon bestseller ranking pages, there's a little button that says free and paid at the top. I can just show you real quick. So like on this page, it says top 100 paid or top 100 free. Just click the free, and those are all the free books right there. Nelson asks, would a Facebook artist page work as well as a personal website? Absolutely not. So nothing will ever substitute having your own author website. Again, you don't own your Facebook page. They can cancel Facebook at any time. They can close your page. They can change all kinds of stuff. So you want to have your own website for sure. So having a Facebook page is great, but nothing will compare to having your own website and having your own email list, something that you own, right? You need to actually own your assets, or otherwise someone else is in control of your business and someone else is in control of your livelihood and your income. So it kind of asks about ghostwriters. Do I need to sign non-disclosure? No. So what you want is like a work for hire agreement. So I can't give you legal advice, but normally when you hire a writer, you want a work for hire agreement. So you can like Google work for hire contract or talk to an attorney and ask them to create a work for hire contract for you. That's generally what you're going to want when you hire a ghostwriter. Daniel asked if I could copy the link to how to email Amazon for categories. So let me just go back up and see if I can find that for you real quick. There it is. It's kdp.amazon.com/contact us. Bill asked if you're able to select different international categories and USA categories. So again, I mean, what you really want to do is you just want to focus on the US and pick those categories first and foremost. And then you can email Amazon later and have them change your international categories. But 90% of your income and effort should be spent. Like 90% of your income is going to come from the US, so 90% of your effort should be spent in the US and really figuring that out first and foremost. Yeah, you can have the same. Elizabeth asked if you can have the same book in different categories for print books versus Kindle books. So you can, because the rankings are different anyways. So sometimes they'll look exactly the same. So you might have a book in the Kindle category for weight loss and in the print category for weight loss for the paperback version, and it looks exactly the same. And sometimes they'll look completely different. So you want to do your research separately for Kindle books versus physical books because the rankings are just very different. Sometimes they look the same and sometimes they're just very different. Karen asks, is it better to have the first book free or paid? So it really depends on you and your audience and your market. I say just do as many promotions as you can. So try a free promotion, try a paid promotion. Every 90 days, you can do another promotion with KDP Select. So you just constantly want to be doing promotions for your book and seeing what works. If you have no audience yet, then free promotions tend to be pretty on good to start building up your audience and building up your email list so you can get more downloads. Once you have a good email list and you can sell like 50 or 100 books at 99 cents during a promotion, that's when I think it almost always makes sense to do the paid promotions. Because with 50 sales in a day, you can rank number one in at least half the categories on Amazon because that's going to give you such a huge sales rank. So yeah, so it just depends where you're at in your business right now. Peter asks if he's number one in a category and changes that category, does he lose that number one ranking? Yeah, so I mean, you can only be in really two categories at once for an ebook. And so if you are number one in a category and you change your to a different category you're no longer number one in, yeah, of course you're going to lose that number one ranking because you're not in that category anymore. So generally, if you're number one in like three categories, you can change one of them. If you're number one in only one category, you generally want to keep it number one in that category, unless you can go up and be like top 10 in a much bigger category. It's going to get you more sales and exposure. Daniel asked if the free bestseller list follows the same pattern for quantity of downloads. No, it's just totally different because obviously you're going to get a lot more free downloads than paid downloads. So it's very different from the paid rankings. A couple of people asking about the webinar recording, so there will be a replay, and I'll email that link out to everyone. So David's asking for the submission link at TCK Publishing. Yeah, so just go to tckpublishing.com, and the submissions tab is at the top of the website right there. You can't miss it. It says submission guidelines. Here, I'll get that for you real quick. So right here, submissions. So someone's asking, his book is published in Spanish on paper and has an ISBN. Should he do a deal for the rights with a print publisher to translate it into English, or better to rewrite it according to the study of categories for the US market? So, I mean, if you can get a book deal from a US publisher for your book, it's in a different language, that's great. But I know several self-published authors who, write in German or French or Chinese or some different language, Spanish. And when they translate their book into English, they tend to get a whole lot more sales. So if you have the expertise or can hire someone to help you translate it into English, and then hire an editor in English to get a really quality book in English and self-publish it yourself and market it well, I mean, you can do really, really well. But it has to be a big market, right? That's why you have to do your market research, understand how big the market is. Because if you're writing something about how to, someone asked me one time if it's a good market to write a book on how to install water sprinklers, and I was like, no, it's super tiny market. So if it's something like that, it's just so niche that there's not any books selling in the US about that topic, then I wouldn't waste the time to translate into English to do all that, because it's not unlikely you're gonna actually earn back your investment. But if it's a huge market, if it's like a romance novel or a thriller or one of these other major markets, then absolutely I think it's worth your time to translate it yourself, hire a translator, and hire a good editor in English to really make it shine and then market it really well in the US. Awesome. That looks like it's it for the questions, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be able to share all this knowledge with you guys. Thank you all for being here. I'm looking forward to working with so many of you. I know have already signed up at tckpublishing.com/special. Really looking forward to working with you all. Hope you find Bestseller Ranking Pro as helpful as I found it for myself and my own business. And if there's anything I can do to help you guys anytime, just feel free to reach out. Tom@tckpublishing.com. It's my personal email. I'm here to help. If you have any issues with checking out or technology or getting started or getting logged in, anything like that, again, just feel free to email me personally, and I'm here to help you guys. All right, wishing you an incredible day. Take care. Talk to you soon.